the Brains Trust, introduced by the question master, answering any question.
It's been a long time, 9 months to be exact, but the fellas are back together for club footy 2021. The wait is over. Bryce and I are back on board for another year of club footy. The Brains Trust has made it to year 2, which is a hell of an achievement in itself. Welcome back, fellas. Firstly, Brycey, tell us how you've been, mate. You would have been craving a bit of club footy. How's life in the UK?
Hey, Scotty. Yeah, it's good to be back. The life in the UK is pretty good. It's pretty good. The weather's much nicer. Got up to see Blake and Monty in Scotland last weekend. That was a good trip. And now just on a 2-month paid holiday, so I can't complain.
Is that COVID enforced or?
Yeah, the vid has something to do with it. We'll see what comes of that, but I can concentrate on the footy. On the footy.
I'm sure you'll be able to pile through the footage, mate.
Yeah, I will.
I say you've been, mate. You would have had a big summer chucking the ball down the wicket, but good to get into some footy.
Yeah, it's good to sort of run straight from the cricket season into footy season. You always want cricket to run a bit longer, so you miss out on pre-season games. But good to be back into the swing of things. So it always makes it a bit tough now that daylight savings with training in the darkness, especially with the lights at Marist. But no, looking forward to another year of footy and probably more so the podcast, to be honest.
It's good stuff. I don't know about you guys. Obviously, I's uni just come back in recently, but it feels like this pre-season's dragged on forever, to be fair. Rugby obviously being pushed out till the 10th of April, this Saturday, our kick-off date. In previous years, I guess it's been, mid to late March. So we've usually started around 2 years ago. It was, I think it was early March. So bit of a later start, which I think is a good thing all round, to be fair. There's been plenty of movement, plenty of rumours as always, I guess, in the Southland club footy scene. Premier teams, for those who have been living under a rock or have been out of the loop, the proposal was for 8 teams, 8 Premier teams with 1 round of 7 weeks and then the bottom 2 to drop out. TR now, unfortunately, I guess, for the competition, after saying yes, then saying no, then saying yes, decided that Prems wasn't going to work for them, and that they've dropped back down into Division 1, which has created a bye. So 7 teams. Welcome Midlands. Great to have Midlands, I think, on board.
Definitely.
Some good lads, good coach in terms of Dana, some good fellas out there. So it'll be good to see how they go in the first weeks, and I'm sure they'll be sniffing a couple of upsets. But so it'll be 7 weeks bye, so 6 games, and then the bottom team will drop down into the AXOPA. The next or the 6 that stay up will obviously play 1 more round of 5 weeks, and then we'll have semis and finals. Thoughts, fellas? Like the format, like the concept?
I think it's a good. Anytime you have fresh blood in the competition, like Midlands coming up, it makes it a bit more exciting, I guess, as from a player's point of view, having to, as opposed to playing the same teams 3 times, you're actually playing someone different, and I think the season's going to be slightly reduced. So, again, that's a positive. It would have been great if Tianao had stayed up or someone else chose to come up, but can't do much about that now. And I'm pretty confident Midlands will have a pretty good crack at it this year.
Brycey, thoughts, mate?
Yeah, you can't argue that Rugby Southland don't keep it interesting. It's a different format every year to keep you boys interested. So I think they've done the best with what they've got this season. I think you say Tiana, they haven't come up to the prems, but you probably see half of them running out for the Barbars, which will give those boys the exposure they probably want. Premier footy.
We'll get to that. Any other thoughts on Tiana, mate? I know you had a few thoughts on that. But...
No. You can't argue with the logic behind their move.
Yeah. No, and I think perhaps the proof might be in the pudding. I understand they had a pre-season game against Mosburn Pirates last weekend and went down by, I think it was 25 points to 7, I believe. So I guess, it'll be interesting how those Tiana boys go, but we'll get to that in our later pod. Firstly, guys, we were going to go live last week, but a couple of technical issues. So we did ask for a couple of Insta questions. for the boys to discuss, and one that did come up. We thank the listener for sending the question in was in regards to the Barbars. It comes up every year, the Barbarians, and the future of, I guess, them. Do we think that where we are with the Prems Rugby, I guess the Barbars are here to stay? I guess we'll get to them shortly, but they do have, I guess, an influx or a new generation of, I guess, players that have come in. So fair to say they are in pretty good spirits. As I personally was probably in the same boat that the Barbars should be gone a couple of years ago. But to be fair, I've probably come full circle, and with the current state of our Premier teams, I would say that the Barbars might actually be the way forward. Thoughts, fellas?
Yeah, I sort of probably tended to side with you in that same thought, but I agree. I'm fine with the Barbars as a concept and them being in the Premier competition. I don't know how many years they've been in the competition now. Would they be
2012? So so
they're coming up their 10th year. So they've proven their sustainability as a club, and it's giving young guys coming out of school or from around the region an opportunity to go straight into a Premier setup. So unless there was disbanding them and putting them all in, I guess filtering other teams up to the grade like Wyndham's and Riversdales or whatever, I think it's a concept that has to stay out there. And they're always competitive. They're always a good side. You're pretty rare to see a shit Barbard side. So, yes, keep on for me.
Bryce, are you a fan of the Barbars, I guess, concept and whether it might even be able to grow, I guess, across Southland moving forward?
Yeah, I haven't got much to add there. I think I agree with what you both said. I think if there's a push to add other country teams to the comp, then that's where it gets a bit murky, a bit grey, because a lot of the country boys go there. So if there is a push in the near future to get Wyndham and those other strong ex-Soper teams in, that seems counterproductive to me. But I also maybe feel a little sorry for Midlands, I guess, in this comp, because they're a country club doing it on their own, trying to foot it against the town boys. So maybe a Barbars concept out west might work as well. They could use that model to help. If Midlands don't go as well this year, then maybe they look at adding some a franchise type team out there like that.
Yeah, bang on. I think it's fair to say, and we'll get to this now, is the elephant in the room, I guess. Those who maybe have been in and around the Premier teams or following the pre-season action would have probably noted and heard around the traps that it's fair to say the Premier teams are in pretty poor health. I guess that's a pretty general statement, but if you look at the likes of Marist, the Marist boys, Woodlands, Star, not too sure on POB. I know Blues were, they had guys away, various commitments and injuries as well. The numbers aren't there, are they? In terms of Premier players, and I guess the question now is, what do you deem as a Premier player? Like there's more and more guys. You only have to look at the Division 2 teams, the Premier B teams as an example. You got at Marist and Woodlands, close to 30 plus guys in each team. Keen to just play a bit of Div 2, run around on a Thursday, run around on a Saturday. Is that where it's going? Do you guys, Bryce, you're obviously out and about, talk to a few different lads. Is that the feel out there around the traps that guys are sort of, I guess, happy to sort of pass on playing Prems in this day and age and just keen to play a bit of footy at a lower level?
Yeah, I think that it does seem like a bit of a common trend, and it's sort of been trending that way for a few years now, as people not really wanting to, whether they're want to just play so more socially. So I'm not going to say social, but and only potentially train once a week. It's not as big a commitment, and people who want to do that are probably more interested in having a beer after the game and whatnot as well. So I think it's definitely a trend or a theme that I've noticed, definitely in the last 2 years anyways. Premier numbers getting thinner and thinner, not being able to field sort of full squads for game days, going in with 18, 19, it makes it pretty difficult on guys who are playing 80 week in, week out. So yeah. So, but it's good to see that there are numbers in those lower grades, but
Yeah.
the Premier one's a little concerning.
Yeah, so especially when we're in that Mitre 10 Cup competition, Bryce. I guess the question is, where do you go? Like, it's all good to sit back and raise their concerns, but I guess 2-3 years time, where do you think it's going to sit, and what might need to be done?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. I think it's potentially a product of that school system becoming like super professional now. Kids are getting in those high performance programs early in schools, and you're losing the players just below that. I think, like the people that just play for fun there, and they're not pushing onto senior footy. Also, I see Howdy Brenton in the Barbars review sort of hinted that those Dunedin teams are a step above, and I think that's not having a university or anything like that to pull young people to the region too really hurts, because I think Dunedin footy is always going to be strong because of that university links. They're going to get hundreds of 20-year-old, 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old blokes coming into town every year.
Yeah.
In terms of the future, I think probably the Southland footy public need to make a decision whether they're happy going to Heartland and letting the Prem comp sort of go the way it's going, or they change their attitude a little bit towards outer province players coming in and just being happy knowing that the Stags are going to be 50-50 guys being brought in late, so we can have a competitive Mod 10 Cup team. And if they can be happy with that, then that's probably what will have to happen if the Southland want to stay up.
True that. I guess
Do you
we'll
think
watch this
that
space.
sorry, just on that second, I guess checking out both years, that I get people coming in from out of the province. Do you think they have to have like a cut-off where they're coming in and actually helping the Premier competition? I guess.
I think they should be here first round, personally. Like I understand there's different factors at play in that, but if they're going to come for the integrity of the club competition, I personally think they should be here for the first game. You can understand 1 or 2 games in, that's understandable in personal situations, but like a flood of guys coming in halfway through, I don't know if that's that benefiting really anyone. Like if a team's scraping numbers and then or those guys that are plugging away play half the season, then the guys roll into town. It's
I agree. It's tough. You got to figure out what hat you want to have on, though, don't you? Because that's where the Premier. That's a Premier Rugby hat, but from a Rugby Southland Stags competitive hat, it might not hurt them if they come halfway through.
Not at all. I guess, big questions. Watch this space, I guess. But anyway, we'll focus on the present. 7 teams. We'll get stuck into the previews. We'll start off, I guess, in numerical order from last year. So we'll go to the defending champions. Those who follow us on the gram. If you don't follow us on the gram, make sure you search the Brains Trust Rugby Pod. Followers are creeping up there, Brycey, with your video and meme content. We're well over the 500 mark now, so make sure you give the boys a follow.
Huge reps on your memes from the Instagram followers. There's been some real good reviews on those memes.
Yeah.
Just
I wish we could have kept...
What's your personal favourite? You've put a few out there in the last couple of months.
My personal favourite had to be deleted, actually.
It was up for what, 10 minutes?
10 minutes, and we got a private message saying, "Can you please take that down?" I take offence, so I had to come down. I think that would be my favourite one.
I low-key think the Ismanaki leaving one's great. The Joe Robbins one, that's great.
He's going to be our cult hero this year, I think. Last year it was Cole Blyde. I think we might be on the Joe Robbins hype train this year.
Yeah, big time.
We're on it. He finally gave the boys a follow too, so well done, Joey. If you're listening, I'm sure you're probably not. That's good stuff. Right, we'll get into the Woodlands preview. I guess fair to say reigning champions, undisputed reigning champions from 2020. I guess we'll start looking at their management changes. I guess Richard Jones back at the helm for another year, head coach. Daniel Yusefo has moved on, or been moved on perhaps, but he's no longer there as an assistant coach. Kev Muir and Dan Kavanagh in the background. in terms of recruitment, new players, I guess for a Woodlands point of view, it's probably a very lighter year in terms of recruitment. As of the present, never say never. There could be a few more coming, but I guess in terms of recruitment, Caleb Apirahama from Canterbury, who we believe may also be in the Stags picture. Big lock, big brute of a man. I've been told out of the Joel Everson sort of mould. Those who remember Joel Everson played for the Southland Stags in 2015. Matt Funga, who I did read in the ODT, is actually named in the Tyree team
Did
as
see
well.
that as well. Yeah.
So that's a few spanners in the mix there. He is meant to be coming down early May, but who knows? Tyree might have something to say about that. And Kafu Misuata, who's a hooker, who's come down from Canterbury, formerly of Belfast and Burnside, who's come down to have a crack with a bit of footy, who actually lined up against the Marist boys in pre-season and looked not too bad last week. Thoughts, fellas, on the recruitment, I guess? I guess you'd say from a Woodlands point of view, pretty light compared to previous years.
What position was Caleb, Scotty? Sorry?
Caleb's a lock, Matt Funga is a 12, and Kafu's a hooker.
Yeah, I think where you said they're light on recruitment, you're probably right, but they're key positions, I think, in club footy. Hooker, lock, and 12, they're pretty key, and that if they're bolstering those three positions, then it's going to be good recruitment from the Woodies fellas. Yeah.
I guess when you factor in their losses, so we'll go through who they've lost. Cole Blyde returned home to the plumbing life in Taranaki. Big loss. The Brains Trust COVID Player of the Year in 2020. Nathan Va'atusili, he has also returned home to Auckland. Matty McKenzie returned home. Not Marty. Matty McKenzie returned home. Ray Nu'u, who returned to Green Island. And I did see his name in the All Black Sevens.
Yeah, I did see that as well.
Taking the field this weekend, a wee comp for them, so well done, Ray. Saucy Tuamavavi, unfortunately for Saucy, to be fair, I think this is the biggest loss for Woodlands. Ruptured Achilles at the National Sevens tournament late January, so a couple months ago, and feel for Saucy because he was, keen to, I guess, by all accounts, have a pretty decent year in terms of have a crack at things again with the footy, and we all know how good a player he is. I guess that's a pretty massive loss for them. Would you agree, Oz?
Oh, massive. When you combine him and Ray in midfield together, it was pretty difficult to stop them. Saucy can do things on the field that not many people in Southland can do. So to lose him, and with such a tough injury as well, it's a real shame for Woodlands.
Yeah.
And Southland Rugby potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we rattle through the rest of the still a couple more see you laters. Jack Dillon moved away, I understand, to Australia. Charles Aloy Marlow, another Stags player who will be back for the Stags, but is currently plying his trade at Zebra in Italy in the Pro 12. So he's gone. And Joey Walsh, who will be back at the later part of the season, but obviously had underwent shoulder surgery, big Joey, and we won't see him in action, I think, until mid to late June. So I guess fair to say that's a fair few losses for Woodlands. Obviously, I guess though you factor in when you've got Liam and Marty in those crucial positions, Liam Howley, Marty McKenzie at 9 and 10. Josh Morby, who has just been called up to the Highlanders, I'm sure he will still play for Woodlands in some capacity. I would imagine, and Kieran Lee, who has returned, played for the Stags last year on the wing. So it's still pretty handy, I guess, in the back line you factor in with some of those forwards they got. They'll still be looking handy enough. Thoughts?
Yeah. When you put it like that, it sort of undermines how strong they were probably last year, and just to carry on that strength, especially as you mentioned at 9-10, if you've got good directors there, that's makes a big difference. Liam Howley was lining up at 10 the other night in that pre-season game, so there might be, I don't know if there's going to be a positional change potentially, or he's going to push Marty out one, but wait and see on that front.
I guess we will watch this space. Bryce, any quick thoughts looking over that roster?
Oh, yeah, I think they'll probably only win the Galbraith by 20 this year.
What did he say, 50 last year?
Yeah. So they're on their way down. They should only win it by 20.
Oh, fair play. Fair play. Right, just if you were on our gram, you would have seen we just had 3 to keep an eye on. These were obviously all sent in by the personnel or some of the boys in the club themselves, not us. So this is all objective. They've got their Drew Carter. Drew was first year out of school last year. Young midfielder who was out of Southland Boys High School. Had a pretty good rookie year. Obviously played in a star-studded team, handful of games off the bench. He'll be looking to nail that starting 12 jersey, I guess, from his point of view. So he's one to keep an eye on, we've been told. Brian Tyrrell, who I understand is a young prop.
Got suspended last year, I think, didn't he?
Yeah,
Snotted
possibly.
someone.
Did he? Was that for Woody's Bees, was it?
No, I think it was for against the Barbars. I reckon he's
yeah.
someone in the scrum. Don't quote me, but I think
We'll fact check that.
we fact check that.
Brian Tyrrell must have a bit of go about him, so he's one that's been put on the list. And Kafu, who we highlighted earlier, who's come down from Canterbury, so could be one to watch, I guess. Woodland's point of view. Right, we might move on. We'll move on to the runners-up from last year, Star. Now, management movement. What do we got here? Jason Harrison stepped away, so no longer at the helm and running the back. So he's stepped away, replaced by I guess a coach who's been around a few clubs, and Scotty Meredith. He's been around the club scene down there. Coached you, Oz?
Yeah, coached me for a couple of years in the Marist Bees.
Teach all you know?
I was pretty uncoachable by that point, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sure he'll do good things at Star. Scotty Meredith was a good Marist man for a point there, so sad to see him go to Star, but all the best, mate. I'm sure he'll do well there. Mark McHugh, we say this every year, or everyone says it every year. Will he hang the boots up? So we've been told he will hang the boots up and jump into the coaching role, but I'm sure at some point the shorts will come back on and the boots will be strapped back up. Fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't see him not playing a game this year. I know he did have ankle surgery in the off season, but I think roll around June, especially if the Star Boys are in the hunt, you might see Murph chuck those boots back on for one last rodeo.
Just a quick note, fellas, didn't come through to us, but I did see on the Rugby Southland Facebook when they had the Star team preview, they looked like they had almost more as many management as players. Did you guys see that?
I didn't see that.
It starts at the top. Starts at the top, Scotty.
Quite an exclusive list, to be fair. So well done on staff. I'm sure they won't be shorter water boys and managers on game day, which is always a good sign. Recruitment, right? We'll get into their player recruitment because they have recruited pretty well, fair to say, if you line them up compared to the other 6 teams. Sinesco Crichton. Now, Sinesco is from Wellington, has come down here. Now, we do understand he did turn up at Blues and was going to play for Blues, but I understand due to some work circumstances, he's moved shit off to Waverley Park and will be lining up for the Star Boys. So I guess in terms of front rows, they don't grow on trees. That's a pretty good pick-up for the Star lads. He'll join Nico Benina, Stag from last year, who's also re-signed for the Stags, young buck who was also in Wellington. So they'll have plenty of, young power up front. Joined by Levi Gage, who played for the Boys High First 15 last year, another prop. Lockie Springford. Now, we actually mentioned Lockie in 2020 quite a bit. He was the halfback that converted to lock and made a hell of a fist of it. Now, he's really stepping into the big time this year. He's going into Prems, and they do have him down as a lock. So it'll be great to see young Lockie step into the second row of Prems after 2 years ago being a halfback at Southland Boys High. So that's a great story in itself. Micaiah Johnson-Brown, who was those who follow their first 15 footy in this part of the world will probably know him. Pretty dominant figure for Southland Boys High at 12 the last 2 years. So he's there, which is a good pickup for them. They've also recruited Zach Toms, I believe it is, from Clutha, halfback. Ezekiel Johnson-Brown, Micaiah's brother, from Menzies, a winger. Bradley Luthard, a utility back from Matamata, and Peti Lausi, loose forward from Auckland. unsure if he may be related to Bubba Luisi, who used to suit up for
Oh
Star.
yeah,
Could be, just chucking that out there.
he was handy.
Yeah. Any thoughts quickly, fellas, on the Star? I guess in terms of their recruitment, they've fair to say they've recruited quite a host of young players.
Yeah, it's impressive, especially in those hard to recruit positions like the front row. I think the only thing I'll say is they've lost, which we're going to get to in a minute, so I don't want to cut your lunch here, but they've lost 3 very good backs, and I can't see too many back recruitments. And Star, from my experience, have always got a top 2, at worst top 3, 4 pack in the comp, so that's their strength, and they've kept that strong. So I don't know how the backs are going to go on the back of that. If they want to win it all, I think they'll be definitely back up in the top 2, top 3 hunt. So
yeah, absolutely.
Bit light on back recruitment, maybe to match what they're losing.
Yeah. Eyes, any quick thoughts on the Star recruitment front?
They're going to be stacked up front again, as Ross alluded to, but yeah, I guess you'll see this weekend what sort of team they roll out in terms of how their backline shapes. I'm not sure about. I think Edge is done as well. I don't think he's playing, so that again's a big loss for Seal.
Yeah.
But the halfback coming down is Zach Palms. So that name's familiar for some reason. So I think if he can fill in pretty ably there, I think it'll go a long way to them competing.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll go through the see you laters for Star. So fair to say they have lost a few players. One that we actually left off the list was Big Tuki Raimona, who's currently in Perth. Not sure if you listen to this, Tooks, but holla if you're tuning in, mate. Also lost Chris Apua, which is, to be fair, is a pretty big loss. Thought Chrissy was outstanding last year for Star. Southland Stag, who we believe's gone back to Auckland. So sad to see you leave, Chrissy. Steve Cormack, who's been around the traps for Star for a long time. I guess a veteran. Mark McHugh, who we may well see again. Caleb Talamahina, who we didn't really see last year, but has moved away to Christchurch. Follows partner Amy, who's in the Black Ferns. Alex Thrupp, who came down from Bay of Plenty alongside Brad Armstrong. They're both one and done, fair to say, in and out. And Junior Nalawathe, who made a comeback for Star last year and is headed home to his native Auckland. So there are a few losses there, I guess, for Star in terms of 3 to keep an eye on that we were sent through. Mackay Johnson Brown, Greg Pleasance Tate, I'm sure will be right in the thick of things again. The Grub wasn't meant to be here by all accounts. Had signed for a Japanese team, but unfortunately due to COVID, don't think he made it over. So I guess from a Star point of view, that's a real bonus, and that's a huge plus for them. Adds plenty to their team alongside their front row, alongside Nico Manina, who I guess will be a big year for him. Came down as injury cover for the Stags and managed to take a couple of opportunities and has been re-signed. So, thoughts, fellas? Star going to be right in the mix as per usual.
Yeah, I think so.
They're it's just they're going to be the same as last year. I think just gnarly forward packing.
Yeah, they'll eke out those wins when the weather goes to shit.
Yeah,
they'll be handy in May, June when they just scrum you and fucking into the corner. Yeah. No, so we look forward to Star. Right, we'll go to Pirates old boys, POB, who, fair to say, come out of the blocks pretty hard in 2020, but faltered, I guess, spluttered a wee bit towards the finish line. In terms of management movement, Ben McHugh and Mike McKenzie back at the helm. They've got themselves a wee coaching, I guess, quartet this year. Sam McLaughlin, who some may remember from a couple of years ago, played a bit of wing, was it, Oz? Played a bit of wing?
Yeah, a bit of wing and a little bit of midfield.
Midfield. So he's, unfortunately for him, due to concussions, had to sort of knock footy on the head. But great to see someone like that still involved in footy. He's going to be the trainer, we understand. Alongside him, they're also going to have Craig Hall, who's joined the fray as a set-piece coach. And in a development role, they have Scott Lindstrom. So plenty of coaching, I guess, in terms of personnel for the players to call on down at Surrey Park. In terms of recruitment, I guess not a huge amount of recruitment. Understand from Doofy that they have retained the bulk of their team, so they're pretty happy with that. But they have recruited 4 players in particular. Dusty Coveney, who's a loose forward. Not too sure where he hails from, but
I've got Jacob O'Connell, listener of the show, actually messaged me about him today and said he played for Burnside in Christchurch, and he reckons he's in a Phil Halder sort of mould, sort of sort of a madman at 7. So it sounds like a pretty good pickup for Pirates Old Boys.
if that's the case, it's very handy then, to be fair. I'm sure him and Phil have a right rumble. Round two. Josh Morrell, they've picked up Josh Morrell, Southland Boys High School first 15 halfback, so it's not a bad wee pick up for them. Desmond Spooner, midfielder. You know anything on him, Eyes?
No, I don't, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Haven't heard of him, but sure know more about him shortly.
Yeah, I guess watch this space, Desmond Spooner. And Dakota Brown, props. So I guess props, like we said before, props are gold at this point in time. So any prop you can get, I guess, definitely help things. In terms of see you later, guys that have moved on, Mike Mulsey, made the move up to red and black country. So he's moved up to Canterbury.
Oh, one more that wasn't written down in there, Angus Swale. I understand he is not late this year.
The Swale horse. Is that a late withdrawal, or is that
no, I think he said
reported
on for a wee while he was going to pull stumps. So I think he's concentrating on a golf career, perhaps. So
that's an official retirement announcement.
Well, he reckons he'll come back and play, but fuck, I personally don't think he will, but we'll see.
Got terrorised under too many high balls last year.
I just don't think he'd be asked, to be honest, but yeah.
Fair play. Keep your eye on. 3 we've been given to keep your eye on. Josh Morrell, who we said out of Southland Boys High, halfback. Dusty, as Eyes mentioned, from Burnside, so could definitely be one to watch around the traps. And Josh Harwood, who, fair to say, had a pretty good season for POB, young hooker, who did some good stuff last year for them. So, thoughts, fellas? POB, Bryce, give us your thoughts, mate.
I mean, I don't know too many of these fellas here. Dusty, Desmond, and Dakota, the 3 Ds. I don't know anything about them, but Joshy Burrell, he's an ex third 15 Dogs of War legend. So very happy to see him kicking on and doing good things. So I'll be keeping a good eye on how he goes this year with the step up. I think he'll be good. He's very quick. I don't know if he's bulked up, but he doesn't need to. He's fast, so he'll do well. And the important thing there is they haven't lost much. Are they keeping that 10, 12, 13 combo?
I believe the 10 and 13 are definitely there. As for Jay, I'm sure he will be there, but I understand he hasn't been cited too often at training, but I'm sure he'll turn up when it counts.
Yeah. So as long as those 3, if they are playing, stay healthy, having a good 10, 12, 13 in this comp gets you a long way, so they'll be fine.
Thoughts, I guess, fellas, the question with Pirates Old Boys, and it sort of came to the fore last year a wee bit, they look really good when they're on the front foot. Did play some very good rugby at times and had some great wins, but I guess when teams sort of got in their face a wee bit and sort of got on top of them, I guess especially up front, possibly a few question marks there. Yeah,
they started, I think, that behind Woodlands, obviously, and that Woodlands almost might as well not even talk about them in the same sentence, but Pirates Old Boys started the season quicker than anyone else, really, and they picked up, I can't remember if they had 4 wins after the first 5 games or so they were in a really good position up, and then I don't know if they might have won 1 in the back end, so it'd be interesting to see if they're close to the team from the first half of the season or last half of the season. If they really go in the first round, they'll be tough again.
I mean, I'd have their back line last year, if we're talking about last year, with those guys up there with one of the top 2, 3 in the comp. So I don't know if that translates to the grounds being in better condition start of the year, before them all getting ripped up and it starts getting wet, and then they get into those arm wrestles more, and that's when they're losing out, because the type 5's perhaps not as strong as your Stars, your Woodlands, or Marist or Barbars, those types of things. That might come into it.
Yeah. A good analysis there, brothers. We'll watch the space. Right, we'll move on. We'll go to Eastern Northern Barbarians. I guess when you talk about off-season moves, it's fair to say the Barbars have probably taken the cake and won the pre-season award for, I guess, sparking up a bit of recruitment and a bit of controversy to some, maybe astute or I guess fortunate recruitment to others. In the management department, Andy Fraser has taken over the backs coaching role from Mark Houston, who's moved on. Other than that, Nathan Howden's still at the fore, leading the ship, barking up and down the sidelines. So it'll be good to see Nathan in full flight again with his big black jacket on. Look forward to that. In terms of recruitment, now we have been stressed from our oil at the Barbars, Howdy, that this can't be put clear enough. They did not poach the Tianao players. The Tianao players came to them. So those are his words, not ours, or their words, not ours. So they have recruited Kane Prentice, Tom Scanlon, Levi Warrell, Jordan Marr, Brodie Walker, and Nathan Warrell. So half the Tianao starting lineup has gone to Gore. Quickly, before we move on any further, fellas, reaction?
I mean, technically, it's not poaching, is it? Because Tianao's in that northern catchment area.
Well, they are called the Eastern Northern Barbars.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they were to go to the Premier grade, the Barbars are their team. It's just the only. I just feel a bit for Tianao because, you know, like when you get good groups of players together, you only got 2 or 3 years to cash in before it all breaks up. And they did such a good job last year of winning that comp. It would have been nice to see them stay together and see how they went. But I don't know, there must be some politics involved up there, and they've made the move, and you can't blame the Barbars for taking guys that are in their catchment area. It's just going to make them stronger, which is so good on them. I think if we're in the same boat, we'd welcome them with open arms. 6, 7 good players.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. That's nut on the head.
Yeah, it's well played. Right, they've also recruited quite a few others. Tom Simmers, who has returned from up north. Not sure whereabouts up north, but he's returned. Kane Taylor, who's out of the John McGlashan first 15, son of Brenton Taylor, those who may remember BT, who coached the Barbars for a few seasons there. Promising young loose forward. Also recruited from Pioneer, I guess from within their catchment, Michael Sleeman. Sorry if I got that wrong. Emeka Alongo, might have got that wrong as well, from Varsity A in Dunedin. Unsure around these guys with their position. Riley Stewart, who was a 10-15 from Pioneer. We weren't given the oil on our Insta page that he will light it up. So one to watch could be Riley. And Dion McGugan, not sure if that's a relation to Seamus, but
surely
I'm guessing it will be, returning from injury. So fair to say, I guess in terms of all the teams, the Barbars probably the heaviest in terms of recruitment. In terms of their losses, Rory Van Voot, who's currently off playing in the Major League Rugby, I did see he made the team of the week playing for Atlanta. So
nice.
I guess that's a pretty big loss for the Barbars. James Matheson, it does have he retired, but I did see his name on the Clinton team sheet. So not too sure what the story is there, but as far as I know, he's playing for Clinton. Jed Walters, who we did pump this fella up quite a bit last year on the show, loose forward from Australia. Unfortunately, got an illness of some description, has had to return home, so that's a bit of a shame. Because I guess we'd all agree that he was probably one of the better guys, I guess, in terms of performers in the Prems last year across the whole board. So that's a bit of a shame. And Lockie McCall, one of the Barbars OGs. I guess he'd almost be up there as the Barbars GOAT, to be fair. He'd be on Mount Rushmore in the Barbars.
Definitely.
He's headed back to, or I guess out to Waikaka, so he'll be lining up for the Green Machine. Lockie, thoughts, fellas, on the Barbars? I guess overall picture, gains and losses, in a pretty strong position.
Oh yeah, I was just trying to think what they had last year in terms of. I don't think they had this many gains anyway, so
no.
So good on them. They've obviously recruited well in the off season. Shame on, I guess, the other side of the ledger to lose those 4 players because they were pretty influential in the Barbars setup. Also, the halfback, didn't see his name again, the Irish fella.
Irishman, yeah, not too sure there.
So fair only played a couple of games, so he looked pretty handy.
Yeah.
So they did lose, on the other side, they did lose a few, but it's looking pretty positive out of the Gore Showgrounds, isn't it?
Things looking good. Brycey, thoughts?
Yeah, good, outstanding recruitment. Very young group too, which is key. So they should have plenty of energy around trainings and that kind of thing when it does inevitably fucking turn to shit weather-wise. So that's always a bonus. I think the only thing needed to be seen, I guess they're losing a lot of leadership there with Lockie and James Matheson and Rory. So
Yeah.
some other people are going to have to step up and probably help Howdy out.
Yeah.
But
I
that's the only question.
Yeah, I guess if there was a question mark, like you said, Bryce, I guess Barbar's teams, I guess we've known from the outset have been, I guess, your Scott McKees, your Bill Christies, your Lockie McCalls, that real toughness and I guess experience. I guess if there was a question of the Barbars, is it this year? I guess the opposite. A lot of younger guys, maybe a lack of I guess mongrel. I'm sure they'll have plenty of young guys who will have that mongrel, but I guess that ability to really get on top of their opposition through niggle and I guess physicality and that sort of thing.
It'll be interesting to see with that recruitment too, and the outgoing guys whether the game plan changes, whether we see a more expansive Barbars for the first time.
Well, the showgrounds is pretty conducive to that. So
I'm going to say no, Bryce.
Hey mate, if it doesn't work for them early, then they could pull a Maris and just change grounds. Like we're pretty happy to get out to a hard track.
Yeah, fair.
If you see the fixtures getting moved early, they want to change game plans.
Yeah.
Watch out! You heard it here first. Barbars are playing width to width. It'll be good to see the Barbars go. To be fair, so 3 that we got told to keep an eye on just quickly. Angus Simmons, who had a pretty solid season last year at 13. So I guess it'll be another chance for him to step up. Seamus McGugan, who we've told will have the luxury of not having to run the ship at 10. We'll get to jump back to 15 and I guess have a bit more freedom. We did see bits of Seamus's, I guess, skill and talent last year. Quite a threat often. And young Kane Taylor, who we mentioned before, could be one to watch. So watch the space for the Barbars. Right, we'll move on. We'll go down to Appleby. We might go down to Appleby. Down to Blues. In terms of management movement, House, the great Pihi Tawhati, absolute Blues stalwart. We understand he's hung the boots up and he'll be jumping in the coaching box like a few other players around the show, joining Philly Tangi Tuckenbell, who's taken over as head coach from Mark Crosby, who's moved on. So, Philly's got the reins. I'm sure Simon Frisbee, Potsy will be in and amongst there somewhere as well. So I guess pretty stable in that regard down at Appleby. In terms of recruitment, fair to say quite a few younger players joined the club this year. You got Clayton Payne, younger brother of Jacob out of Boys High, who's a prop. Thomas Lewis out of Verdon College, went away to Otago University's come back, prop.
He's gone to Blues.
Gone to Blues, mate. You couldn't believe it. Verdon College. Although his father is a Blues man through and through. I think he'd disown his son if he went to Maris. So, Josh Sutherland. Understand he might have a wee injury cloud, but nonetheless, he's on the list. Hayden Shearing. Hayden Michaels. Now, Hayden Michaels, one who we mentioned a few times last year. Young 7 who was out of Gore High, was at Gore High last year, played for Pioneer and the Barbars, has made the move into town, into the Rugby Southland flat and straight to Blues. So I know he is recovering from a partial Achilles tear last year. Whether he gets in any game times in the first couple of weeks, I don't think he will, but I'm sure we'll see him at some stage. Tupu Kofuanga, unsure as to his position. Napu Vulasero, who was both on the Star and Blues team sheet, but we understand he will be lining up for Blues after a brief stint at Star pre-season. Big centre who has played league for the Cowboys, we understand. And Izzy Kent. In terms of see you laters, Jay Renton, who's hopped over the train tracks, not over the train tracks, but closer to the train tracks and headed to Maris. Andy Hamilton, who we understand has moved away. And Big Ray Katafu, who unfortunately for Southland Rugby has decided to head home to Auckland, has signed with Counties Manukau. So, thoughts, fellas? A pretty young Blues side we're going to see roll out in 2021.
Sorry. Yeah, no, even the last couple of years, they've recruited quite young.
Yeah, big time.
And it'll be interesting to see how, I guess, these guys mesh in with the guys I've been recruiting the last couple of years. I think, as you touched on just before, losing Jay, Andy, and Ray's big losses, and how they fill those voids. I've obviously got Oscar. It'll be interesting to and Blake Tempero, and they'll cover 9 and 10. I'm not sure in what order, but those are big losses for them. So yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how, because they're going to be probably close to the youngest team in the comp. I would hazard a guess.
It wouldn't be far off it.
But yeah, they'll still be pretty formidable as they.
I think to be fair, their loose forwards when they get Hayden back are going to be probably right up there. With a Reese, Hayden. You got Ben Poland who's back from injury. You've got Jonty McKinnell who we saw last year as a pretty good club player. Then you got the experienced heads of Shammy Winslow and Towner who's still trotting around. So I think in terms of loose forwards, pretty key area. I think they'll be pretty well off there.
They usually have a pretty good tight five as well. To be fair, they don't get beaten off at scrum time in particular. So they'll be nasty enough.
Bryce, any quick thoughts on Blues, mate?
No, not much to add to what's been said. It's good signs that they're going young, especially at the start of the pod, how we talked about potentially that premier grade dying off. So it's very encouraging to see lots of young fellas coming through still, and hopefully they can stay there for a while. In terms of how they'll go, I'm not sure. They finished 5th or wooden spoon last year. I don't know if I can see enough coming in to maybe push them into that title race. They should improve. But yeah, losing Jay and Andy, pretty tough in the backs.
Yeah, for sure. They've got here 3 to keep your eye on. They've gone for Hayden Michaels, Brad Koeman, who we know well, those who follow footy, and Oscar. Now, you said before, I guess Oscar, as we know, very talented young player, and obviously plays 9 and 10. Blues have pushed him back and forth quite a bit in the last 2 seasons. I guess the question is going to be, where is he going to play? I know they do have Ryan Taylor as well, who can play 10 but can also play 15. So where do you see him, Eyes, his best spot?
I actually see him as a 10. I do, because I like him getting a little bit more space, even though he's very threatening around the rocks. Yeah. And he doesn't want selling a dummy. He's got good footwork. He's quite
bad at that.
Yeah, so...
is he Southland's Club Rugby's Whakatava?
Whakatava, actually. Yeah, that's probably not a bad rap, actually. But yeah, I think they'll end up playing him at 10 with Ryan at fullback and Blake at 9 would be how I personally would line them up with that South.
Where does Koeman go? Wing?
On the wing, I guess, but yeah, he can sort of just rove around, can't he? I don't know if you just...
Speaking of Koeman, I know I think him and Jacob Payne, captains, or one of them's captain and vice captain. So that you talk about going young, I guess they've gone young all around, even in the captaincy ranks. So watch this place with Blues. Right, we'll move on. We'll go to Midlands, 2 to go. Midlands, obviously, jumping up into the Prems. Management movement. We understand the manager, Derek Cow, he's hung the notebook up. Chris Tate stepped in to fill that void, and Henry Ireland, who, fortunately, Henry won't be playing this year. Promising young 15-10, had to get surgery, and he'll be filling in the backs coaching role. In terms of recruitment, Ben McKirch's name's on here. Unsure if that's recruitment or declaration, but it's good to see Benny back on board. He'll be running the ship from 10. Seb Vanter-Sluis, hopefully I got that right. Oliver Woodrow, Lockie Erland, the younger brother of Henry, very talented touch player, and Tehura Wilson, who's also a talented young outside back from Central Southland. So I guess, again, gone young in terms of recruitment with an old head in Kirch. Probably, I guess, lost quite a few guys and probably quite a few key guys from last year. Campbell Wood, injury, Creet Waka, Matthew Brame, Joel Maguire, Noah Waka, Henry Erland injured, and Clayton Comera. Hopefully I got that right. Thoughts, fellas? Few key losses there.
That's some of those losses are pretty major with Henry in particular. I know losing Crete in the midfield as well. They're losing probably one of their bigger targets there. So how they work around that, whether they just work around it with speed, because they may not have, I guess, the size to get over the advantage on at times, be interesting. But they'll be exciting enough, and their backs will be, I think, where they look to do a bit of damage, because they don't mind using the width from what I've watched on their video highlights the last couple of years. So I'm really excited to see how Midlands go, to be honest.
Yeah, and that man Jack Keane, Brycey, he'll be, I guess, key to their hopes.
Yeah, if you've thrown Benny into the 10 jersey straight away, that could be up for debate.
We Birdie has told me they will be looking for the dual playmaker philosophy. Benny's obviously a big fan of that, so he can get on the field.
the Queensland Origin approach, just get your best players on the field no matter where they fit.
So Jack Keane will have a license, I guess, at 15 with coach barking orders and behind the forwards, so could be interesting.
He will bark. I just want to second Isaa's point on Henry Ellen being out. Like, especially if you're stepping up to prems, you want your already your prem ready players to be on the pitch, so they're starting sort of on the back foot there, which sucks for them. I wish them all the best, Midlands. They're going to be my second team all year after Marist. And I hope if players turn up mid-season trying to crack the Stags, that Rugby Southland sort of reward Midlands for committing to this league and try and send them out there. I don't know if Midlands want them; they might not. But if they're offered,
I'm sure a couple they can do with a couple.
Yeah, 100%. So I hope they get looked after, because they've taken the leap when a lot of those country teams have sort of been dragging their knuckles and all that kind of stuff. So go well, Midlands.
Go well, and obviously Joey Robbins, that man Joey Robbins, and Sammy Brain will be leading from the front in their forward pack. So hopefully we do see them go really well, which will be good. Right, we'll go to the last one. We'll save the buyers for last. Merritt. In terms of management movement, Marty O'Connell, who's been, I guess, a part of the furniture daytime, been a part of the furniture at Miller Street for, I guess, the last 7-8 years. Before that was a long association as a player and big part of the club. He's decided to hang the whistle up. Obviously, his kids are at that age where he wants to follow them a bit more. So, bit of a loss, pretty big loss of Marty not there. He's been a pretty big part of the team, 7 or 8 years at the helm. So he's moved on, which has just left Marty Smith, along with a few players. So it's I guess a new sort of era at Marist, if you call it that. In terms of recruitment, probably not so much in terms of recruitment, but more in terms of guys returning. Flynn Thomas, who's, I guess, had his injury battles. Those who might have listened to episode 1, we did a wee yarn with Flynn. He's back and rearing to go. He'll be right for game 1, allowed to play a few minutes there. Phil Halder, who we also have talked to a couple of weeks ago, back from overseas, ready to go. All 92 kgs of him, looking a bit leaner these days, but ready to hook in after he's shot a few deer. Tangaroa Walker, Farm for Life. Back from his life as a celebrity, I guess for Thursdays and Saturdays, maybe Thursdays at a pinch. But he'll be back. He'll be back on board. Probably going to find himself at prop, which we'll cover off in a minute. But he'll be there. Jay Renton, obviously, as we mentioned, he's come over the road from Blues, so decided he wanted a new challenge. So I guess from a Marist point of view, that's a huge gain to have 2 quality halfbacks. Both Jay and Eyes on board there.
I was going to say the second one.
I think it's Dale Frampton, I think. Liam now, I guess in terms of guys who have come in to the province of Marist, Liam Udi Johns. This guy looks pretty handy. Loose forward out of Hawke's Bay. He's been in and around the Hawke's Bay team, but unfortunately with a lot of super guys in that loose forward trio, hasn't been able to force his way in, so he's come south for a crack and something different. Seen a bit of him in pre-season. He looks pretty handy. Tall, athletic, loose forward. And Mike Moody, brother of James Moody from South Africa, who's made the trip over. Young fella who's can play 12, play a little bit of 10, but more of a 12. So it'd be good to see him go. In terms of losses, I guess the most notable loss from a Marist perspective has been the beast that is Pasaleo Tosi, which is a pretty huge loss. He's signed for Bay of Plenty, those who were unaware. So that's a pretty massive loss in terms of go forward and just what he brought to the team for the last 4 years. Raniera Takarangi and Yuita Tafunga have both gone home after coming down for a crack last year. And I guess on the injury list, Javan Fa'amuiwani, unfortunately for him, still having real issues with that leg, so which is a real shame for Javan. So we won't see him this year. And Robbie Houston, the Scotsman, who came over. Unfortunately, he's got the body of an 85-year-old man. And he's had to have shoulder surgery and about to have back surgery. So, Bryce, we'll start with you, mate. You're, I guess, the most objective, when it comes to the Marist leagues, being on the other side of the world. Give us your quick thoughts on the roster.
Mate, it looks impressive. I think, like you said, with those returning guys, I think the biggest net gain there is what they add to the culture and like they bring winning culture too. So they've been involved in Galbraith Shields, even Jay at Blues, I think won one. So they know what it sort of takes to win the comp. In terms of see you later, I think Leo's huge loss. It's no coincidence that his first 2 years in club footy were 2 Galbraith Shields. He's a game changer. He's still the fastest man I've ever seen at 140 kgs. Good that Jay's come to sort of offset Raniera leaving, and Javan. It's a shame about the leg because he had a hell of a season last year. He was just beating people for fun. I think low key, Jay's probably the best recruitment there in terms of, like, with no disrespect to you guys, just that added kicking option. I remember. I think, honestly,
he played the corners, mate.
Yeah, just purely even out of the box. Like I remember the first time we played them, in the Thursday session leading up to it, Scott, you said he's just going to do all their kicking. This was 2017, and I was skeptical because as a winger you got to kind of keep track of who's doing their kicking, and he was fast out from the ruck, and he was just booming them. So it's going to take a lot of pressure off you, I think. Which, again, it sounds. I'm not having a dig. Like, you've done all the kicking.
Have at it, mate. Have at it.
You've done all the kicking the last 4 years, so I think not having that pressure might be good for you too, Scotty. I haven't seen a good box kicking 9 in any club teams, so I'm not just saying that for you, Jeremy. I mean, it was one of the things that Dunedin, like I noticed coming down, was as a winger, I was taking no contestable high balls because no one box kicked. It was just all off 10, so it was good for me. I fucking hated them.
Nothing worse than having to go up for a nut with 4 guys coming.
Especially when you're fucking knee high to a grasshopper, correct? And then Jay was the only one. Jay was the only one that I noticed that was very, very good at box kicking. So, but usually went to Keanu's side, so that was fucking good.
Yeah, no, definitely will be a big strength, I guess, in terms of question marks around the Marist team. I guess, fellas, it probably lies a bit of depth in the tight 5. I guess a few injury concerns pre-season, more than a few. Ruben Northo, they're going to miss the early rounds. Ben Fotheringham won't be back for a couple of rounds. Aleki Soeli. Great stuff for Aleki making the Highlanders under 20s, so he's going to miss the first game. Obviously, Marist have the bye first up, so we'll have a week to wait. But I guess others coming back. Big Siaki, who's sort of been a bit of an injury during pre-season, so if there was Achilles heel, could be a bit of depth up front and maybe a little bit of depth in the back line. Tavita Latu. Those who watched the Stags last year played some good footy. He's coming back, but obviously not until early to mid-May, so we'll miss the first couple of weeks. So I guess from Marist's point of view, if guys are healthy and on the field, probably looking pretty good, but I guess like most teams, you get a couple of injuries and a couple of guys go down, it could really test the depth.
Absolutely. I think it goes for most teams, the top 15 is going to be really pretty handy, and like it's just how often can teams run out that same 15 and keep that continuity going. That'll be ultimately decides who's in that final, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to finish off on Marist, three to keep your eye on. Leki Saili, who we mentioned before, high on his under-20s, looking very, first year out of school last year, and I guess finding his feet. Had a pretty good year, but he's looking very fit, very, intense, and from what I've seen in the preseason, so I think it's going to be a huge season for him, which is great. Will be great for Marist. Been following him. We saw how good he was last year until he got injured. He's come back from injury, and he's looking outstanding, to be fair. So I'm expecting a huge season from him. And maybe a rookie to keep your eyes on, folks, down at Miller Street could be young Caleb McKenzie. Definitely the better McKenzie brother. His brother Trey Songs, who's an Aussie. But Caleb definitely got the footy gene, because he's going pretty good, playing lock loosey, and had a pretty good outing last week against Woodland. Yeah. So he could be one to watch, a young buck.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. That's our preview, fellas. We'll, to finish it off, we'll go to the picks. Round 1, April 10. Marist have the bye, so three fixtures. We'll get straight into it. First up, we have got Woodlands at home. Woodlands at home to Star. Big day out of Woodlands, I think, with a bit of a event or some description. So what are we thinking there, fellas?
Woodlands overs for me.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's purely as well the lack of prep from Star. I think the intel that came through said they only had Arrowtown, which, no disrespect to Arrowtown, but
the fact that I think if Tatey's playing those two props, I know they're young, but I think if there was a question mark of Woodlands in the early rounds, it could be up front. I think Woodlands will get the job done through especially Marty, Howley, and Morby and Keys in the back line. But I think if Star can get a little bit on top of them at set piece and disrupt them a bit, then I think it might make it a little bit closer.
Will Morby be playing is he with the Landers?
Wow, that's the question. We'll get some oil on that on the ground later in the week, but I would assume he would be. I would assume he would be allowed to play. But hey, they do like to have these guys playing in Dunedin, so we'll watch this space. Right, second up, we'll head to Surrey Park, which will be quite an interesting clash, to be fair. Pirates Old Boys taking on the Eastern Northern Barbarians. Fair to say this is probably a pretty evenly matched game.
Yeah.
What are we thinking here, fellas?
You've claimed the Barbars as early favourites for the whole thing. Don't back down now.
Yeah, I'll take Barbars unders then. I was actually I will take Barbars unders. I think they're going to be pretty good this year.
Ooh, it's a tough one for me.
I think this is the toughest game to pick, to be fair, out of the three.
I think next one's pretty easy from my point of view.
Too early in the picks to go for a draw, isn't it? I think it's going to be fucking close.
Yeah, definitely unders game.
I'm going to go Pob unders, and it's only home ground that's tipped me.
Yeah,
they won't get off the bus, Barbars, till half time.
young team could take a while to kick into gear.
The 40-minute drive is going to take it out of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on the assumption that Jay Thompson is putting the boots on, and I'm gonna go Pob unders as well. If he's not put the boots on, give me a wee bit more doubt. But I think if he's there, I think they'll be maybe too strong in the back line, and I think they have enough in the forwards. Doesn't sound like they have any injuries, so they may have enough at least to have parity with Barbars. So definitely a tight one though. Could go either way.
Yeah.
Right, we'll go to Centennial Park, Game 3. Midlands, the new boys on the block, or I guess new boys again, taking on Blues. Blues having to make the trip to Winton. This could be interesting, fellas. We sense a boil over.
Midlands unders, definitely. I reckon Midlands a real good chance to win this game.
Yeah.
Shit.
Especially fresh up.
Yeah.
I reckon they're a good shout.
At home, first game.
Home.
Bit of home support.
Crowd.
Taking on a young Blue side. Yeah.
Return of the King. I think they get across the line.
Yeah. Surely
Who
Kurt
going,
shouts
Scott?
a couple of crates. That's tough. Give me Blues unders, just for the fact that I think I just think out wide with Koeman, if Koeman turns up, I think he could be the difference. And saying that, Midlands do have Jack Keane, but I think it'll be close. I think it'll be very close. But I think if Koeman fires, they get him a bit of ball and unstructured play, it could be the difference.
I think
it'll be a tight game.
It will be tight. Good first up fixture for Middies, getting last year's spoon.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's great heady up first up.
Yeah, I'll go with Blues Blues unders.
Oh.
I hope I'm wrong though. I want to win the picks last year. I think I got last.
You got
so I need to stop picking with my heart, mate.
Use your head, mate. Use your head.
Correct. So I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going Blues unders.
Yeah. No, very good. And we usually do give the referees a shout out, but at this stage we just don't have those referee appointments up on the website. But we do know Jason McMath will be refereeing the Woodland Star fixture. So
Scruffy butt?
I don't think so. I think they play it's always the second one. Yeah, second one I believe. So no Scruffy. No Scruffy in round one. Yeah, watch the space. No, I think that'll do us, fellas. Premier Preview 2021.
In the books.
Hopefully it's going to be a great season. And, look forward to, I guess, a bit of spice with the bottom team going down, especially if Midlands can get the job done at Centennial Park on Saturday.
Sweet. Sounds good,
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Pretty good.
Too easy.